Someone Better by I_am_Ellie on AO3. Episode 9, Chapter 7, Someone I Want to Forget. When Shouta got home from work that day, smarting angrily, and ready to collapse in his bed under his weighted blankets and hide from the world for a while, he immediately noticed how quiet the apartment was. Not that Shouta minded quiet. He enjoyed it, really. It's just that it wasn't a common thing in the Aizawa Yamada Midoriya household, not since Izuku had come to live with them. Since the child was in school yet, they would have to wait 2 more long weeks, and the child was always doing something and making some kind of noise. It was rare that you didn't hear the pitter-patter of little feet running up and down the hallway, or Izuku talking to himself in his room, or Izuku trying to climb something, or crying, or watching cartoons, or cuddling and cooing at the cat, or something. But no, dead silence. Tense, dead silence. The only good thing about his schedule now was the hours. The job was grilling, picking up heavy boxes and parcels and loading them onto delivery trucks, carrying merchandise into stores, constantly covered in sweat and achy muscles, and so much noise. The sound of delivery trucks beeping, blaring as they back up, metal grinding against metal as the back doors opened, the yells of drivers and suppliers, and all the moving. He was lucky his boss allowed him so many breaks. Half the time he was hiding in the break room, sipping coffee, and taking Tylenol and praying to a god he didn't believe in that his headache would go away. And the other half, he was bent over a toilet, trembling and puking because so much noise made everything ache. But despite the painful work and the more painful surrounding, it had shorter hours. He'd shown up early in the morning and leave at about noon, showing up at the apartment 5 minutes after Sashi left for his radio show. It made everything a lot easier on them. And Nemuri, of course. She still stopped by to watch Izuku every night, so Hizashi and Shouta could patrol. But now she could do her own day shifts without having to worry about Shouta and Hizashi calling last minute for her to babysit the child. It was working out well so far. And since it was the middle of the day, Izuku was almost certainly awake. He always was. The child never seemed to take naps, and Shouta and Hizashi never enforced them since he was hard enough to get to sleep at 8 every night, as it is, what with all his boundless energy. Shouta sighed, quickly taking off his uniform and his shoes, leaving himself in a gray t-shirt and a pair of black jeans. He hated his uniform shirt, and he was always happy to take it off. The material was too itchy and scratchy, and it rubbed against his skin. It felt like a million cactus spikes prickling his nerves. Not to mention the uniform shirt had a tag on it, which he hated with a burning passion. But his boss said he wasn't allowed to take the tag off in case other workers had to use his shirt should he quit. The socks got pulled off as fast as the shirt. He hated socks more than he hated tags. Child, he called, looking around the apartment. Hizashi probably would have called him if he lost the kid, and Izuku hadn't gone far if he decided to leave. Probably. He walked down the hallway, pushing Izuku's room open. Toys scattered around the room. He'd have to get Izuku to clean those up later. But no sign of the child in question. He moved on to the bathroom. No child. The closet. No child. Though there was a very vibrantly colored jacket. He heard a small rustle come from his and Hisashi's room. Shouta frowned uneasily. Why would the child be in their room? He used the door open. The child was kneeling by the bed, looking through an old, battered shoebox. On the side of the box, in Sharpie, in Hisashi's swooping, curly handwriting, was memories. Ah. The boy was holding a photo of him and Hizashi, back when they were kids at UA. The Ferris wheel photo. right after he and Hizashi had gotten together. Purple, pink, and yellow lights danced off the skin of the kids in the photograph. Shouta still remembered how red Hisashi's face had been after they walked off that Ferris wheel, and how confused Shouta had felt, still trying to work out what had just happened. It was a good memory, the image of it captured in time with Nemuri's old Polaroid camera. That's why it was saved in the box. Cabbage. Shouta said, "It is not polite to go through other people's things." Izuku's head shot up, and he looked very guilty for a moment, then suddenly, inexplicably, nervous. "I'm sorry, Ankisho," Izuku said. "I was looking for my toy so I could play heroes with my action figures, and I thought they might be in here." Shouta crossed his arms. "How did that lead to you looking through the boxes?" "I got curious." Shouta supplied for him. Izuku nodded viciously, green curls bouncing. "Yeah, that." Shouta sighed. He really shouldn't scold the child. He was so young. But there was something about him looking through his room that made him distinctly uncomfortable. "Look, Cabbage. How did he say this? Tap, tap, tap. If you want help looking for something, if it's in Hisashi's and I's room, ask. Don't just go in, okay? And don't go through people's stuff. It's not nice. If you get curious about something, just ask if you could look through it. Got it, child?" Izuku nodded sadly, eyes on the floor. He looked chastened. "I won't do it again, Unky," Izuku said again. "I'm sorry." He frowned for a moment. "But who's this baby?" He pointed to the photo of the newborn Izuku, sitting nestled between all the other little frozen pieces of history. Shouta and Hizashi had taken the photos down from the walls immediately after Izuku had started living with them, partly because they didn't know how destructive the child would get once he was comfortable with them, and partly because it would be hard to explain why Hizashi and Shouta already had photos of him. "That's you," Shouta said simply. "Right after you were born. You probably don't recognize yourself. You looked like a very dried out tomato back then." "You met me before?" Izuku asked in wonder. "No," Shouta said. He decided that one time he saw the boy at his parents' funeral didn't count. "Your mother sent me those on your birthday every year. I guess she wanted me to know you existed." Shouta shrugged. "But no, I never met you." "Oh," Izuku said. Did you not want to?" Shouta blinked. "What makes you think that?" "I don't know. I don't know." "I was young when you were born, Izuku. I had no way of going to visit you. I wanted to, at first. But I knew I wouldn't be able to. After that, I was pretty indifferent to you." "What's indifferent?" "It means I wasn't that involved in your life, and I'm sorry about that." Izuku hummed. "My dad didn't like you much. I don't think. Mommy and him were always arguing about you." "I know he didn't like me," Shouta said. "And that's okay." Izuku tilted his head to the side. "You're not sad he didn't like you?" "No," Shouta said. "I can't make everyone like me. And he disliked me for something I couldn't control, so it doesn't matter." He felt like he was directly reciting one of those speeches Hizashi had given him time and time again. "He called you a freak," Izuku admitted. "Lots of people have. I've been told I'm an odd person." "Well, I don't think you're a freak," Izuku said, puffing up his chest. "I think you're the bestest ever." "I appreciate that immensely." Shouta hoped he hadn't offended the boy by how dry his voice sounded. Izuku just looked confused, in that way he did before he asked a question. "What's immensely mean?" Shouta considered getting the child a dictionary. You remember what extremely means? Izuku nodded. He learned what that word meant a few days ago. It means I appreciate it to a great extent. I appreciate you not thinking I'm odd. Very much. Izuku smiled, and it was like the sun was looking up at him. Can we look at more pictures? I want to see what I looked like when I was little. Look in the mirror. Izuku's shoulders slumped, and he pouted at him. Shouta sighed, sitting at the edge of his bed, to get the weight off his leg. Okay, cabbage. Izuku grinned, climbing up on the bed beside him, and bringing the box of photographs with him, handing them carefully, like each photograph was the most delicate, expensive thing he's ever held. It made Shouta wonder why he wasn't this careful with cups and plates. Hizashi was always having to rush forward during dinner to save a porcelain plate or a glass cup that was dangerously close to the edge. He picked up the most recent photo, next. He held it carefully and looked at it sadly. I remember when this was taken, Izuku said. Mommy did it. She loved taking photos. He placed the photo aside, next grabbing yet another one taken back in Shota's high school days. In that one, they were at a diner. Hizashi had bursted into laughter at something Shouta couldn't remember, and the milkshake was running out of his nose. Shouta could be seen, in the background, giving the blonde a disgusted and affronted look. Hisashi's face was red, and tears were falling down his eyes, despite the fact that he was clearly laughing, not crying. Shouta could remember how concerned he'd been for the boy at the time, before remembering how inclined for the dramatics he was. Izuku giggled at the photo. Izuku grabbed the next one. This one was taken in a selfie-like way. Hizashi and Nemuri were both on the couch, Shouta sitting between them, wrapped in Nemuri's weighted blanket, and completely dead to the world. It had been taken at Shota's old apartment. Is that Auntie? Izuku asked excitedly. She looks different. We all look different, Shouta stated. We were younger. Izuku grabbed the next photo. He gasped. Is that a kitty? Is that Takara? He squealed. Yes, she was still a baby. She was so skinny. She was a healthy weight. Shouta rebutted. Before I started feeding her tuna fish all the time. Izuku grabbed the next photo. Who's this? Shouta looked at the photo. It seemed the further down Izuku dug into the photo-filled box, the older they were. The photograph held a picture of Hizashi, evidently looking Shouta, and Tensei Ida. It looked like it had been taken after the exams of the first year, judging by their appearances. Shouta still had the shorter hair. That's a friend of mine. His name is Tensei. He's the pro hero in Genium. Izuku looked like his eyes might just pop out of his head with how wide they were. He has a little brother named Tenya, who is about your age. You might meet him someday. Oh, please, please, Izuku said, bouncing in place excitedly. I want to meet Tenya and Mr. Ingenium. Please, Anki, please. Shouta felt very uncomfortable and very manipulated as a pair of green puppy dog eyes fell on him. I already told you you might be able to, Shouta said. Please, stop. The eyes did not cease. I'll work something out with your Uncle Sashi, yes? Izuku nodded frantically. Good, now calm down. Izuku reached for the next photograph, digging his hand deep into the box. That's Hisashi's family, Shouta said before Izuku could ask, and they were his parents, who might as well have been Hisashi's carbon copies. Tall, blonde hair, though his father had blue eyes while his mother had green. Shouta was in the photo too, because after he and Hizashi had gotten together, it wasn't often that he was away from Hisashi's house. You looked tiny, Izuku said, and Shouta supposed that was true. As a child, he'd been faintly short because of his eating habits, and that photo was taken just before he shot to 6 foot and got taller than Nemuri. Yes, Shouta said. I was a child, and Hisashi's parents are both very tall. Izuku hummed, grabbing the next photo. Graduation. And this? First patrol. He pointed at another. The second sports festival. What about this? That's just a tree. Izuku kept going through the photos until he came across the last one at the very bottom of the box. Who's this boy? Izuku had pulled out a photograph of a tall boy with bright, floating blue hair and a wild, cherished cat grin. He'd been a friend. Not as close as Nemuri and Hizashi, but a friend nonetheless. Though their group never hung outside of school grounds, he still blamed himself for his death, for not being there. Someone I try not to think about. Shouta said simply. No more photos. Have you eaten? Ankisashi gave me leftover origami for lunch. Izuku replied. Go play with your toys, and go clean your room. There are toys scattered everywhere. Izuku nodded, scurrying out of the room, and down the hallway to his own. Shouta sat there for a moment, not quite willing to stand up yet, until the achiness eased its way out of his knee. He glanced down at the box of photos again. It was still open, and the boy's photo was resting on the rest. He stared at it. The photo stared back. I'm so sorry. Then he put the lid on the box and slid it back under the bed. He couldn't be blamed if he wanted to forget about some of the memories resting inside. To that one person in my comment sections, a couple, and I think it was in the first chapter too, who was like, oh my god, so he didn't go through the death of Oboro. And I'm sorry, I lied to you. I kind of forgot that Oboro appears in this fanfic, I'm gonna be honest with you, and it isn't till a couple chapters back that I remembered. It was literally 2 chapters ago that I was like, oh wait, Oboro does, appear in this one. I kind of forgot because I was sitting and I was thinking about this fanfic and moments and stuff like that and wanting to talk about grief. And then I realized, oh wait, no, Shouta experienced grief other than his parents. I remember that. Who was it? Oh my god, the memory box. Oh my god, Oboro. So yeah, except in this fanfic, it's not touched upon as much. It really isn't. It could have been this whole thing, but it isn't. I think, apart from this chapter, I don't remember it appearing anywhere else. It's one of the biggest reasons why I kind of forgot that Oboro is in this fanfic, because he isn't really mentioned. There isn't any moments. Apart from this one photo and this one I'm sorry at the end, we don't get to see much of it, which is my only critique of this fanfic. That and the fact that it isn't finished. Where's my Oboro love? Where's Oboro? Right? Kill him off, but make it hurt, okay? And second of all, where's the rest of the fanfic? I'm joking. I'll let you cook, even if that cook is never gonna finish. It's like when I forget something in the air fryer, and then the next day I realize, oh my god, it's still in there. That's been in there overnight. Oh shit. Oh fuck. That's been in there overnight. Okay, well damn. Okay, well, I don't think that's... Can I reheat it? I have reheated it before sometimes, and then sometimes I'm like, alright, I cut my losses out in the trash. Because some of them are, time sensitive. Like shrimp. Yeah, I put it in the morning and I found it the next day in the morning. That was 24 hours it was out. I was not eating that. I was not risking it for the biscuit, okay? But yeah, apart from this, I don't think Oboro is mentioned again. Not that I remember. As I'm telling you, that is a point in this fanfic that I completely forgot till I reread it right now with you guys. And that's, I guess, for a reason? I guess. I mean, that's the best way I could tell you guys. It's for a reason I kind of forgot. It's not really mentioned that much. So, yeah. For those wondering, there's Oboro. He doesn't play a bigger part. He doesn't seem to be the best friend that, Shouta had. Not like in other fanfictions where he is the best friend and, not here. Unfortunately. Anyways, as always, my raindrops. Make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.